everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today's video is on the Coronado Theater. The Coronado Performing Arts Center has been described as a jewel in the crown of all things that make Rockford great. It was the dream child of Willard and Irma Van Meter to create this beautiful theater. Willard Van Meter was born in Chicago on August 19, 1889. His family moved to Rockford when Willard was 14 years old. Sometime around 1903, the senior Mr. Van Meter came to town to look for employment manufacturing musical instruments. He would eventually own a controlling interest in the Schumann Piano Company. Irma Donnelly Van Meter was born on June 12, 1888 in Chicago and was a member of the Schumann family. She grew up in a home located on the corner of Jefferson and Main Streets. Irma married Willard in 1911. In 1915, Willard first became interested in the theater business and formed a partnership with James Hurst and T.M. Elias. During World War I, Willard's business deals were put on hold as he served in France. It was Willard's idea to build an atmospheric theater here in Rockford. He wanted to give theater-goers a unique experience where they would have a sense that they were in a luscious, outdoor theater. This type of theater offered a wonderful organ, a starry sky overhead, and a simulated sunrise using lights and music. The very first theater of this kind opened in Houston, Texas in 1922. Willard thought his theater would help the developing downtown area. He was a smart businessman and decided to include 17 apartments and several stores in the building as well. This, he hoped, would ensure income during slow theater times. The Coronado Theater was a success even from the opening day on October 9, 1927, when the Coronado hosted over 9,000 guests for 3 showings of the silent film Swim Girl Swim, starring B.B. Daniels. Many celebrities would grace its stage, including Bob Hope, the Marx Brothers, Bela Lugosi, and Sammy Davis Jr. John Kennedy used the Coronado when he visited Rockford during his campaign for president in October of 1960. Willard and Irma and their partners didn't stop with the Coronado Theater, though. They purchased the Palace Theater in 1933 and the Midway in 1936. In 1938, they built the Times Theater, and in 1941, they built the Auburn Theater in the North End area of town. They called their business Rockford Enterprises Incorporated. Willard and Irma loved the Coronado so much, they decided to locate their home inside the theater by combing 2 of the proposed apartments. Their apartment is as beautifully designed as the rest of the theater and included a stylish Art Deco look. Willard didn't fight during World War II, but he assisted in the effort to sell war bonds. He decided to bring movie stars to Rockford for a special event, and during the week that he scheduled the stars, he sold $1 million worth of bonds. The Van Meters were the perfect hosts, and there were many tales of Willard dressed in a tuxedo to greet guests as they came for performances. Even after he suffered a heart attack in 1952, he would be carried down in a chair so that he would continue to share his beloved theater. Willard died in April 1953, but Irma continued to live in the theater and handle all the affairs until she died in their apartment on March 18, 1969. Irma proved to be a very good businesswoman, and the theater thrived under her care. Before Irma passed away, she left over $1 million for a rehabilitation center for victims of illness or accidents. The Van Meter Rehabilitation Hospital first opened in 1967 as a part of Rockford Memorial Hospital. She was the kindest woman who ever lived, said Edward Ebig, Illinois National Bank and Trust Company officer and trustee of Miss Meter's will. They often spoke of how good Rockford had been to them and how they wanted to give back to the community. Irma was dedicated to helping people, especially crippled children. Her gift would enable thousands disabled by sickness or injury to return to a satisfactory and productive life. Read a Register Republic article on December 6, 1973. The Coronado Theater was listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 1979. The listing noted it is one of the best preserved movie palaces in the country and was at its inception among the finest of its type. The Coronado is a particular fine example of the atmospheric style of movie theater pioneered by John Eberson, inspiring the audience to believe that they were enjoying entertainment al fresco. Apparently, the Van Maters couldn't bear to leave their wonderful theater even after they passed away. Reports of unusual things happening in the apartment and throughout the theater began shortly after Irma's death. In fact, there are several other entities that seem to want to make sure people know they are still around. There are many reports of strange noises, hearing people talking when there is no one else in the building, smelling perfume and cigars, and even spotting full-bodied apparitions. Mr. Van Mater himself has been seen numerous times in different parts of the theater, especially on nights when big performances are scheduled. Their presence, especially Irma's, is still felt in the apartment that they called home. Irma had a beautiful cabinet that she treasured that is still in the home. Apparently, she does not like it when people touch it and will either blast trespassers with a heavy perfume or a cold draft. Several paranormal investigation teams have explored the theater with some surprising results. They have recorded some great EVPs and disembodied voices and gotten some interesting readings from different types of equipment. But it is not just ghost hunters who have these experiences. The Land of Lincoln Theater Organ Society, LOLTOS, is a volunteer group that was in charge of the maintenance of the building for many years and still continues to care for the theater. Coronado board members Marty Mangas and D. Huffstedler help organize the tours and have spent countless hours collecting the Coronado's history. Members of LOLTOS have experienced many strange incidents over the years. These usually occurred when they were all alone in the building, working on one project or another with the doors firmly locked. The members are always willing to share the stories of their experiences. Sometimes they would be in the building, completely alone, and they would spot a person down a hallway. When the member would approach these people, the person would disappear right before their eyes. One story that the volunteers shared involved a gentleman by the name of Marshall. Marshall worked in the theater, reupholstering the seats when the Coronado was closed for remodeling. Marshall was in the theater all by himself many times while he worked on the seats. When he finished for the day, he would gather up his tools and radio to place them on a table so he could grab them in the morning to return to work. Early one morning, Marshall entered the theater and walked to the table to get his tools and radio to begin work. The items were not on the table where he knew he had left them. He couldn't find them anywhere and left the area to determine where they might be. Marshall calculated later that he had been gone for 15 minutes. When he returned, the tools and the radio were right where he originally left them. There are a lot of other unique incidents that have been reported at the theater. One legend states that if you stand to face the mirrors in the main lobby, that you might catch Mr. Van Mater's reflection in the mirror next to you. If you look to your side, there will be nothing next to you, but when you look back at the mirror, the reflection will show his image. There have also been reports of a formally dressed couple seen dancing across the stage to the sounds of an unseen orchestra. This occurs several times a year and seems to correspond with Irma's birthday and the couple's wedding anniversary. Other claims include the smell of a heavy, floral-scented perfume that seems to overwhelm people and even clings to their clothing. Volunteers attribute the perfume smell to Miss Kylene, who was an office manager at the theater at one time. Miss Kylene is rumored to be very territorial and protective of the theater. There was also a stage manager, Louis St. Pierre, whose spirit seems to linger around backstage and in the auditorium. A story that is attributed to St. Pierre happened on an evening after a show when stage hands were cleaning up from a production, and one of them decided to throw some dry ice onto the stage, causing it to break and smoke. Other workers joined in and caused quite a commotion. One worker happened to look up toward the balcony, and there was a man, dressed in a very nice suit, scowling at them. Apparently, he did not approve of their actions. They were so frightened by what they saw, the crew decided to finish cleaning up in the morning. There have been many stories of disembodied voices all throughout the building. One night during a paranormal investigation, a group heard voices coming from the men's bathroom in the lower level. 2 members of the group stepped into the bathroom only to discover more adjoining rooms. The 2 members advanced through the rooms. Every time they thought that they would certainly find someone in the room, the sound seemed to move into the next area. The most curious claim seems to be one of a woman in white. After an event one evening, the facilities manager was securing the theater when he got the feeling he was being watched. He was on the stage and decided to snap a photograph of the seat area. Though he said he did not see the woman with his eyes, he caught her in the photograph. Standing just beyond the doorway of the auditorium, there was a woman in a white dress. When the photograph was enlarged, it was easy to see that she had wore her hair in a loose bun. The same woman has been sighted in many areas of the theater. She is also featured in a story that took place across the street from the theater. On May 19, 2014, Rockford police were called in to check the elevator in the parking garage located directly across from the Coronado Theater. They had received a report from a person living in a neighboring high-rise apartment that someone appeared to be riding up and down in an elevator located in the garage. They described the person as a woman dressed in a long white gown. Police arrived and sent cars to different floors of the 7-story structure. Officers reported that the elevator was going up and down, but they did not locate anyone inside the elevator. There have been a couple of deaths in the theater, but research has failed to identify the woman in white. In the late 1920s or early 1930s, shortly after the theater opened, there was a Chinese acrobat act on stage. One of the men was supposed to flip into the air during the act. It all went very well during rehearsal, but for some reason during the actual act, when the man flipped into the air, he hit his head on a hook that was hanging from the ceiling. He died right on the stage. Volunteers for the theater also tell the story of a woman who passed away during a performance from a heart defect. She was the mother of an infant who was starring as the baby in the Splendor and Majesty holiday show. The woman was backstage holding her child, waiting for the cue, when she suddenly collapsed. According to witnesses, she was dead when she hit the floor. Luckily, a man standing next to the woman caught the infant, saving it from injury. There are also tales of an angry man who is occasionally seen by the volunteers and staff members. They describe the sightings as being similar to a chance meeting with someone who has a nasty temper rather than a dark presence. Willard and Irma have been gone for many years, but there are many people who believe that they and several other spirits still linger in this very unique location. Some people have voiced their opinion that all these people put their heart and soul into the creation of the place and worked very hard for its success. They suggest that maybe the spirits of the Coronado Theater are just happy to still be a part of the show. Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. What paranormal or crime-related mystery would you like to see next? I hope you all have a great day.